Cloud. All right, Casey, here we are again.
Howdy, Jeff.
Good to see you,
Good to see you, my man.
as always.
Yep.
It's Friday,
Friday,
February 2nd of February.
Yep.
Was today Groundhog's Day?
Today was Groundhog's Day.
Do we know what happened?
I heard that spring is on its way.
Saw a shadow or didn't see a shadow?
Did not.
I don't know
Stayed
which,
out.
I don't know which one's which.
I think it's if he stays out of the hole, spring's on its way.
No, it has to do with the shadow.
Right. But if he sees a shadow, he goes back in the hole.
Oh, right.
To hibernate longer for more winter.
Got it.
But he comes out, he doesn't see a shadow, so he's out for spring.
All right. Well, do you know what episode this is?
This is our 8th podcast, but it is episode 7.
Nice.
So
He's
7
on it
yeah,
now.
dialed.
Actually, I
It's
love
fucking dialed.
We're dialed as of today administratively as
Yes.
well, so that's positive. Feeling like we're getting this thing off the ground. I've shared it with some like other people. We're getting pretty positive feedback. What's the word been on the street?
A couple people I sent it to, they enjoy it. They're entertained.
I bet their favorite part of the show is this part of the
This
show.
part. Cheers, brother.
Cheers, my man.
Cheers.
We start every
Yep.
episode. There we go.
There we go. A little
And off we
tequila
go.
ocho.
So episode 7, February 2nd. Today we are talking guns, and arms.
And arms.
And arms. So we're gonna do all things like all questions around gun control, gun safety, gun management, legislation,
I think
personal.
And I also think a big thing is vocabulary.
Ooh.
Like terminology, because
Yeah.
when you hear people speak on guns on TV, your news people, your politicians, or whatever, and people that have guns, that own guns, that work in the firearms industry, that have made a living with a gun, we get very frustrated when we hear people speak about guns, and as soon as they start talking, it's wildly evident.
I think what a lot gets labeled as misinformation is actually ignorance.
That's 100% it. And people that are against, whether you're against guns or pro-gun, whatever. I obviously am very pro-gun. I know you are as well.
We should pause here. Actually, I meant to do this at the top. It wasn't in my notes. For new listeners and for those that may be like, fans of the show but haven't heard a lot of the backgrounds, Casey was enlisted for
7 years.
7 years. How many tours?
Couple of tours.
Outside the wire.
Outside the wire, yeah. I was on a long range reconnaissance platoon. We worked for. We got attached to a lot of people. 3rd ID, 10th Mountain. My stuff was all in Iraq. I never went to Afghanistan, but I got some pretty high speed firearms training. And I'll be honest, like growing up in the country, we had guns, we grew up with guns, but we weren't what I would consider like a gun family. Like my dad doesn't collect guns. My dad, he hunted a little bit, but it wasn't a big thing. Like we weren't the family that sat around and waited for opening day of deer season or opening day of bird season. It wasn't like that. It was, we had the majority of the guns that got shot around our house was like shooting muskrats off the bank of the pond because they would tear up the bank of the pond. Or if there's a coyote getting into the chickens, or it wasn't so much. Obviously, it was a sport. It was a hobby. It was something fun, but it was more of a necessity, more of a tool,
way of life.
I mean, totally. Just growing up in the country. And there was my grandparents' house. They lived on the farm. There was always a 12 gauge in the bathroom, like loaded, leaned up in the corner. And it was for if there was critters on the property that you didn't want, it was just up to whoever saw the critter to go get the gun and get rid of the critter.
It's like sweeping the dirt off the stoop.
Totally. It's snow and shovel the driveway.
Totally.
It really wasn't crazy. But I was big into archery. Archery was kind of my thing. And I was that kid that was in the backyard shooting his bow a lot.
Nice.
Weekly.
Bow hunting?
Not really. Again, my dad wasn't big into hunting.
Okay.
My
But you are now
was,
though. Like you like
yeah, for sure. Love it now. But my dad, we worked. So like it was not a thing to like take a day off of work to go hunting.
I've always wondered that, like, people go hunting for like
A week.
yeah,
Yeah.
like what are you?
But
You
it's
can't be you're off grid for a week. Nobody can talk to you. Like,
right.
You're out in the holler.
It's a thing.
You're out in the
Yeah, man. It's a thing. And even like nowadays when I go hunting,
We should get some of those people on our podcast to talk about how you can take a week away from the world.
Yeah, how can you do that?
That's some like tech guru stuff that would sell well in Silicon Valley.
Sure, if you say so. But no, like again, you know, I like guns, I'd shot guns, but I hadn't had any sort of real training, and didn't know a lot about them. I knew the business end and how to be safe with them, but that was about it.
Yeah.
And then most of my training came from being in the military, and then even since I've gotten out of the military, I've gotten even more training.
Well, when you got in the military, obviously you're going to be dealing with guns.
Sure.
You were comfortable with guns coming from your childhood.
Sure.
How did you end up down the path of like becoming, you know, your specialty?
Right.
Your specific. And I'm gonna let you speak on more of it. I don't want to, you disclose what you're comfortable with.
Well, I mean, there's no secret, there's no hiding. I mean, I carried the sniper rifle for my recon platoon for the majority of the time I was there.
How did you become to be a specialist as like a sniper as opposed to any other job that you could have pursued?
I think a lot, and the reason I mentioned archery earlier was because archery range is important. Knowing how far you are away from your target is very important in archery. More so in archery than it is in firearms because, you know, most rifles out to 300 yards are going to have a fairly flat trajectory. So your point of aim and your point of impact is going to be relatively close. Whereas in archery, 20 yards to 30 yards is a different trajectory and it's a different hold versus 40 yards or even 50 yards with some of these newer bows that guys are shooting today. So to me, range estimation was good. Being a kid growing up in the country, running around in the woods, hunting squirrels, hunting.
Were you like selected or you chose this? It sounds
A
like
little bit of
what you're saying.
A little bit of
chose a little bit based on what you thought your skills would align to.
So in basic training and in basic training in the military, everyone gets a basic.
It's like day one of track.
Totally.
Everyone does hurdles. Everyone tries the high jump. Everyone throws the fucking javelin.
Yeah, and so whether you're an infantryman or whether you're a cook, you're going to get the same basic rifle marksmanship training.
Oh, right. Yeah. Sure.
And it starts off in day one and then it progresses. And a better part of half of your time in basic training is learning how to use your service rifle, which is your M16, your M4, whatever. How to take it apart, how to clean it, how to be safe. It's safe. They preach safety, they preach safety, they preach safety. Because you got to figure you got, you know, a couple 18-year-old knuckleheads.
Something's gonna go.
And everyone's carrying a gun.
And they're investing a lot in like room, board, recruitment.
I will say this though, the only time they give you live ammunition in basic training is you're on the range. They control the amount of ammunition that you get. You expend that ammunition, and then someone's standing over your shoulder, making sure that you don't have any more ammunition, making sure that your weapon is clear. So it's a very controlled environment. And in all honesty, I wish if everyone got that kind of training, we would not have the gun issues that we do in our country today. Because today, I mean, listen, I'm a big 2A guy. I'm a big Second Amendment guy. I think everyone should own a firearm. But being said, it's a little concerning that an 18-year-old with no training, with no background, with no anything, can literally just go to the sporting goods store and buy a rifle and ammunition, and off you go.
Like in the country, you're taught by your uncle or your dad, or like
hunter safety when
you're gun safety was
8
like
years old.
Also paramount around all of that. Like hunting culture is like that's the biggest thing, which is quick aside, like why it's so funny. Like Dick Cheney shot someone in the face,
and like with a shotgun.
But isn't he from Texas?
I think, yeah, something like that. I mean,
you were taught to not walk in front of a gun, not point a gun at someone.
That's it.
But I think I was interested to dig into the point that you made about should own a firearm. Like everyone should. I think the masses will have the question of, Right, but if you're just like some thug, like in the old school, like we grew up in the '90s when there's like Boys in the Hood where
Turn it to the side.
guns are sideways, and it's like that's not gangster, that's not even accurate, that doesn't even make sense. Like, that's not how you use. So like, should there be? I think instead of having like an age requirement or a waiting period for a background check, put me through a course.
Well,
like make me go to the range and like show some certain competencies, or at least like
Well, you got to keep in mind too.
if you're going to regulate it, I'm saying, like
Right.
if you're trying to solve the outcome that they say that they're trying to solve for.
Well, there's two things, and you've either got people that have an accident with a firearm where someone gets hurt, like a kid.
Plaxico, shout out Plaxico.
But no, you've got like
sweatpants in the street.
Right.
We know the story.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
We'll put a pin on it.
But no, you got a kid that finds their dad's gun in the house and then somebody accidentally gets shot.
But that's like ignorant gun owner.
100%.
Why? Well, your guns are all locked, right?
None of my guns are locked. All my guns are loaded and.
Well, actually, but you don't have kids.
We don't have kids. And also I'm highly trained. My wife is highly trained.
Totally.
And when we do have people over who we don't know or who we don't feel comfortable with, everything gets put away.
In the house.
Everything gets put into the closet. Everything gets put in a case. And then people don't come into my bedroom.
Of course.
But now when Jen and I do have kids,
1000%.
I will keep one gun loaded, but it will be in some sort of a quick opening type safe, near or around my bed, or maybe two places throughout the house.
Fingerprint or biometric enabled.
Exactly. They've got a couple that are really nice where it'll have like 5 or 6 buttons, and you just have to hold the right combination of 2 or 3 of the buttons.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it opens.
So security, but accessibility.
Totally.
Balance.
And it's a fine line.
Yeah.
But also too, our kids will know.
Educated. And,
right.
Yeah.
So it won't be this mystery. It won't be like, oh, mom and dad are gone. Let's go find dad's gun. And
well, guns were never weird to me.
No.
I mean, I just grew up around them. Everybody hunted. Like I dressed the deer with a friend's family when I was like 8 years old, I think.
But I think that's like that when you hear about kids finding, it's curiosity. Curiosity kills the cat, and they weren't raised around them. They don't know anything about them. They haven't been taught.
Yeah.
And again, it's lack of education. And if you can take that mystery and that lack of education out of the equation, then all of a sudden kid knows,
I think that's true for most things.
I think it's for everything.
But it's like almost imperative for something that's like as fatal or deadly.
Well, and that's why when I listen to these politicians or these media outlets or whatever, and they're talking about these guns and a shooting or an accident or this or that, and they open their mouth, and immediately I'm like, no, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You're uneducated. Now you're regurgitating misinformation to the public.
Yeah.
And now you're ignorantly, and you're going to get someone hurt. The way that you're speaking about firearms is going to get someone hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple things that guns are for, right? Obviously, collecting. People collect firearms.
Yeah. Just a hobbyist.
A hobbyist, but I mean, also like you have your antique firearms that have value. Totally. Then they have value, like collecting a painting or collecting art. You would collect it like you collect music or paintings or
These probably most of them would almost never be fired.
Right. Exactly. And so you've got that.
Display pieces.
Totally. You've got people that are for sporting, whether it be for hunting or competitive shooting or what have you. Or again, just weekend hobby, whatever. I want to go shoot some clays. I want to go target shoot. I want to go see how far I can shoot a target. And then you actually have guns that are specifically for hunting. And then you have guns that are specifically for self-defense, for protection. So you've got all these different categories. But at the end of the day, there's no better personal defense item that you can have other than a firearm.
Oh, great segue. Man, it's like I fucking know your brain or something. That's incredible. So like if weapon of choice, like
I get this question all the time. Let's break it down. So you've got a handgun, which could be like a Glock or a revolver where it's like the wheel gun where you put like 6 bullets in it.
Right. The old Western style.
cock the hammer, it rotates, it shoots a single
Bang,
shot.
bang, bang.
Gotta cock the hammer every time. Then you've got like your striker fired stuff, which would be like your Glock, but handgun.
Yeah.
You hold it with one hand and it shoots
Yeah.
one-handed.
Yeah.
Typically short barrel, typically under 7 inches. Then you have your kind of intermediate range rifle, which is going to be a rifle that shoots a rifle caliber, and you're going to be able to engage targets from 6 inches out to 300 or 400 yards. Then you've got your more higher power, longer range rifles, which really you're not going to do much with until you're at like that 200-yard mark. And then those are going to be good out to 1,000 or even further. And those do tend to shoot a higher caliber. And those have magnified optics. They're really not going to be optimal for anything inside of 150, 200 yards. And then obviously then you have your shotgun, which in my opinion is the most versatile firearm there is, because you can get a shorter barrel shotgun, which is great for home defense. It can shoot anything from birdshot, which is a ton of really small pellets. I mean, when I say small pellets, I mean like about the size of rock salt, really small pellets. Buckshot, which would be 2, 3, 4, 5 bigger pellets that are significantly heavier. It can shoot slugs, which is just one big solid, essentially pellet. You can shoot dragon's breath to where it shoots like a flame out of it, and it can light shit on fire.
Can also get a flamethrower.
Well, yeah, flamethrower. But you can shoot bing bag rounds. You can shoot rubber bullets out of it. You can do anything.
Versatile. It makes a ton of sense.
You can
and it can also be short range and like up to what a distance, like how far would it be effective?
A guy who's pretty good with slugs can probably make that weapon effective out to 100 yards or so.
Nice.
So I mean,
that's a football field, folks.
Yeah. So you've got your handgun, your intermediate range rifle, your longer range rifle, and then you've got your shotgun. Personally, I think everyone should own all four because they all four have their own kind of niche.
Use cases, applications, yeah.
I think most people are going to go out and buy the pistol for their first gun. If they grew up shooting guns, more often than not, they either grew up shooting a shotgun or they grew up shooting a smaller caliber rifle.
I shot a 22 and a shotgun.
Yeah, and I think that's
12 gauge. I think
that's pretty standard.
And 6 maybe.
That'd be kind of a more longer range, higher caliber, larger caliber rifle.
I think it was a 12 gauge that I had.
But I get that question all the time. People are like, "I've never owned a firearm. I've never shot before. What should I go get?"
Yeah.
And my first question is, "What do you want it for?"
Totally.
You're not going to go buy a pistol for bird hunting.
So the answer to this question is the first thing you get is 4 things.
The first thing you get is all the stuff. No, I mean, the first thing is, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
If you
what are you trying to accomplish? Right.
If you never foresee yourself ever hunting and you only want a firearm for home protection or for carrying around in your car or something like that. Yeah, I would say go get a handgun.
Yeah.
And as far as all the different firearms, I have some favorites of all. For handgun, I like a 9mm. It's affordable to shoot, it's inexpensive to shoot, it's very plentiful. You're never gonna have a hard time finding ammo. Totally. You're never gonna be like, except for however a couple years ago.
Yeah, when it was like going to Cabela's waiting for the truck to show up.
Oh my God, it's so stupid. But the nice thing about the 9mm is most handguns that shoot 9mm have a higher capacity because the round is a little smaller. You can put more rounds in the magazine. Actually, let's pump the brakes real quick and let's do some vocabulary real quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know how technical we want to get.
I don't want to get super, I want to get lame.
We don't want to get into grain.
I want to get general. No. But 9mm is it's the size of the projectile. So you have an entire cartridge, right? You have the bullet.
Define cartridge.
All right, so cartridge is the whole thing.
Yep.
When you go out and buy bullets,
yep,
what you're buying an entire cartridge essentially.
Yeah.
And it's a case, which is the brass, the biggest
pops
part
out of the gun after you shoot.
It's the biggest piece. It's typically the brass. Inside of that is gunpowder that actually does the explosion. On the end of it is a primer, which is actually what lights the gunpowder when you pull the trigger.
On the shooter end of it, like
Closest to you.
the hammer
Yep.
on the gun.
Exactly. And then the bullet is actually the projectile. It's what comes out. So obviously we know what we're talking about, and so we just call them bullets or rounds.
Right, yeah.
But technically the bullet is just the part that leaves the gun.
The
projectile.
The casing, or like, what do we call it?
It's the projectile.
No, it comes out of the
barrel.
the brass that falls off.
The brass that comes out is the case.
Sorry, that's what I mean. The projectile exits the case after it's struck.
Correct. The case contains everything.
Yep.
And then when you pull the trigger and it goes bang,
Yep.
the bullet is what leaves the barrel. And then if you have a revolver, the case stays in until you drop it out and load a new round. If you have a semi-automatic handgun, whatever.
Exit
exactly. And similar in shotguns, so they're called shells. The shell is the plastic thing that holds everything, and then whatever projectile comes out of the barrel it's either buckshot, it's birdshot, it's a slug, it's whatever.
Yep.
But so for all the gun nerds that are listening and that want to be like, oh, they're not bullets. Yeah, no shit. We know they're not bullets, but that's what everyone's familiar with calling them.
Yeah.
Yes, we know that they're rounds. So getting back to 9mm, very common. Most handguns that shoot a 9mm are going to be higher capacity, so people like that. They have very small recoil. So
higher capacity over, say, a 6-shooter, the old.
Well, sure, but like everyone's heard of like a 45.
Sure.
Is bigger than a 9mm. Here's where people get confused. 9mm is millimeters. 45 is a .45 caliber. Calibers are their own thing. It only lives in the gun world as far as I know. But a 45 caliber would be like.
We also talk about calibration relative to our autopilot.
Sure, when you're boozing. But in reference, a 9mm and a 45 is going to be closer to a 10mm. So if you have a magazine that can only hold X amounts of millimeters, you can put more 9mm in it than you can put 10mm in.
There you go.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
For trying to dumb it down a little.
It does.
And again, it has less recoil, so for new shooters, it's good. They tend to not be quite as loud.
Yeah.
So they're a little less intimidating.
Most people that are a little outside the gun world.
Big time.
Such a
if you've never fired a gun before, it's scary.
Yeah. Well, to feel that power, to know what's on the other end of that.
And
the noise is just like startling.
So in the handgun world, I like 9mm. In the intermediate rifle world, I like 223 or 556, which is what your AR platform type rifles tend to shoot. For larger caliber stuff, I like the 308, which in the military world is a 7.62. And in the shotgun world, I mean, you've got your 12 gauge, which is probably the most common. It can do everything. A smaller one would be like a 20 gauge or a 410 gauge. Those are really good for new shooters, smaller female shooters, although there's plenty of small female shooters that shoot big 12 gauge too. And then when you're talking about like a 12 gauge, you can get different length shells, which have less or more powder in them, which can change the recoil. So if you have like a 3-inch or a 3 1/4 or 3.5 inch shell, those tend to have more recoil than like your shorter, 2 3/4, 2.5, whatever. Like
there's more bang for the pop.
It's more powder in them, so they go bang harder.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't need that. If you're shooting ducks and cannons, but like you're shooting ducks or pheasants and you got them in close.
Right.
There's no reason to shoot a 3.5 inch shell and just blow them out of the sky.
It just goes farther.
It goes further and it hits harder.
Yeah, farther, not further.
Right.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Well, you said further. This is just like a quick little aside. You can go far, but you can't go fur. That's an easy way to remember it.
So further is never accurate.
Only if you're talking about like I furthered myself or my abilities. If you
can't further yourself.
If you're talking, you got it. There it is.
I got it.
if you're trying to go out a distance, if you're talking about space, it's always farther.
Got you.
You can't go far, you can't go fur.
Sure.
You can't go far.
Well, country.
No, I love it. It's just a little quick interjection. We're keeping grammar top of mind and throughout these episodes.
But anyway,
Yeah,
just
back on track.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Those are all calibers that are going to be readily available. They're going to be affordable to shoot. And I think those are all good places to start, depending on what type of weapon system you want to have. Those are going to get you to be able to do what you want to do.
So let's talk about some of the like myths of gun ownership or usage or application of.
Here's my favorite myth, because I just heard this the other day. And our commander-in-chief, bless his heart, was talking about high-powered rifles, high-capacity magazines, all this crap, basically trying to start implementing bans or restrictions on firearms. And the AR-15, that's the one, right? That's the one that everyone wants to get rid of.
Yeah.
They think it's just going to kill everything.
Well, the biggest, just where you're going, but it's in the name. The misunderstanding of the name.
Right.
So labeling.
Well, yeah, people think that the AR stands for assault rifle.
Right.
It absolutely does not. I think most people will tell you that the
what
AR.
Does it stand for?
Well, so there's some. I don't know. I wasn't there when they named
originally, wasn't it the original manufacturer?
So Armalite.
Yeah.
Armalite was the company that kind of designed, developed, tested this specific weapon system. And it was very cutting edge when it came out. Most firearms at that time were semi-automatic, which means when you pull the trigger once, one round goes off. And then the gun cycles and it chambers another round, ready to shoot again. Now, Armalite was for sure developing this rifle as a sporting rifle, so more like target competition type shooting.
Yeah.
They are good for hunting. It's a little too small to hunt deer with, in my opinion. So like small white-tailed deer, maybe. Big mule deer like we have out west.
223 platform.
Exactly.
5.56.
223, 5.56.
Not quite enough.
It's not quite big enough of a round, in my opinion. I mean, I think some states do allow you to hunt up to like deer with it, but in my opinion, it's not ethical. I think you need a larger caliber than that. Now, for sure, you could kill a deer with it with a well-placed shot.
Sure.
You could kill an elk with it with a well-placed shot.
Yeah.
But it's more of a sporting round. Coyotes, great. But in my opinion, that's kind of maybe pigs, coyotes, pigs. That's about where it stops. For deer, I think it's just a little unethical. But that's again one of these misconceptions is that it's this huge rifle that blows people away. I mean, our commander-in-chief, bless his heart, literally quoted saying,
how does like
you blow people away.
Gun, murder, everyone just gets annihilated with this weapon.
Well, your first rifle that you ever shot was a 22, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So the AR shoots a 223. It's 3/1000ths of a millimeter bigger than a 22.
Good call. And we use that for squirrels and rabbits.
Exactly.
We were shooting deer.
Now,
I mean, we did shoot.
I'm just,
but like I wasn't that good of a shot to.
But I'm speaking specifically just on the size of the projectile.
Yeah.
Now the 223 is much faster.
But if you showed somebody like a country bumpkin 22, 22 caliber, right? Like
if I take a 22. A rim fire 22, which is what you shot, and then I take a center fire 223, and I pull the projectile out of both of them, and I put them on the table. Physically, they're going to look very similar in size.
I think also what's the shock value in today's world, though, is like if you sat that same rifle next to an AR rifle, the AR looks so much more aggressive, even though it's shooting the same.
It is significantly more capable. It shoots those rounds at a much higher speed.
Oh, okay.
And so because it shoots that round at a higher speed, that round is capable of creating more trauma.
Yeah, more lethal or
100%. Trauma equals lethal. So when you know, when you get into shooting, you're gonna see that different ammunition has different grains. And when they talk about grains, they're just talking about the weight of the projectile. The faster you can shoot a heavier projectile,
The more damage.
exactly, the more damage it's going to do.
Yeah.
And it's rated by pounds per inch. So how hard that object hits another object, how many pounds per inch?
PPR.
Or pounds per, I can't remember.
PPF.
Pounds per, do your own research.
Yeah, there's an initialism in there somewhere, figure it out.
It was really never something that we concerned ourselves with that much. But again, you know, for sure, the US military uses the AR platform. But you know, they used to use.
But it's also like a highly like
it's super versatile.
Yeah.
It's so you can configure
components and configuration.
The ammunition's easy to carry. It's super easy to shoot.
Yeah,
you can literally
not a lot of recoil.
No, hardly.
Yeah,
you can shoot it one
relatively accurate, way better than like say an AK or
in my opinion,
the other like militarized weapons that have been used.
Well, and so before that, they used most firearms until the development of this were what they called recoil operated. So the round would chamber, it would go off, and then the recoil of the round would manipulate the bolt to come to the rear and charge another round.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The cool thing about the AR platform, and it has been improved on since, but it's what they call gas operated. And so as the round travels down the barrel, when the round gets to the end of the barrel, before it exits the barrel, it uses the gas pressure from the explosion that's behind the round to go back down the gun. The bolt. To manipulate the bolt to let another round start. And so that's why it has.
Is that just like suppressing the escape velocity or the gases?
The benefit,
you have a solid barrel instead of a perforated.
No. They're all still have a fully solid, fully sealed, fully lined barrel. What it does is it gives you less. It mitigates the felt recoil because the round goes off and you're talking thousands and thousands of a second, but the round goes off and then the bolt chamber cycles and loads another round. Whereas a recoil operated system, as the round goes off, you get the recoil. So on a gas, you get the recoil from the ignition of the round, but then shortly thereafter you get the bolt cycling to chamber another round. So it has less felt recoil. The downside of that is they tend to run a little dirtier because in that gas that's cycling the bolt, you have burnt gunpowder.
Yeah.
And so they do tend to run a little dirtier. And that was a big problem with them they had in Vietnam when the US started using them as their main service rifle.
That would cause jamming or
a couple things.
Bad feeds.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the things was that the machining tolerance was so tight that if they did get dirty, wet, muddy, carbon buildup from the gunpowder residue, they would stop functioning. And so then they added what's called a forward assist, which is basically just a lever on the side of the gun or a button on the side of the gun that you could push to help continue seating rounds if it wouldn't fully seat the rounds to go off. We're getting a little technical here. But anyway, so giant misconception. The AR does not stand for assault rifle. Some people argue that it stands for Armalite, the company that developed it. Yeah. Some people say that it stands for other things.
Let's go to an extension.
It definitely doesn't stand for assault rifle.
Well, an extension of this misinformation like stems from this very weapon, the AR platform, which is, as we described, like highly versatile and has like lots of application.
And it doesn't blow huge holes in people.
Which has also been misrepresented.
And here's the thing. If you're going to use that weapon system or any weapon system for malice, it's an assault weapon. It could be an assault beer bottle. It can be an assault hammer.
I mean, a pool cue is an assault weapon.
It can be an assault fucking Prius. Yeah, like I guarantee you I can kill more people with a Prius than I can with an AR.
Well, you probably did if you bought a Prius.
You end up killing yourself.
No, we're living. Anyway, another topic for another day.
Digress.
But talk about one of the other buzzwords that surrounds the AR world specifically is this concept of a bump stock, which has been wildly misrepresented in
Totally.
congressional hearings that I've watched, where the guy is talking about a bump stock, talking about how it made it the bump stock on a gun made it easier to fire more rounds, or enabled you to fire more rounds more quickly.
Well, okay, so
Like it basically not that like it would enable you physically because of like your posture or your angle, but that it actually like made the weapon like
more deadly.
automatic
Sure.
or like instead of semi.
So let's do a little quick vocabulary.
Totally.
So semi-automatic means that every time you depress the trigger, one round leaves the barrel.
But it chambers.
But it will chamber a second round
Yeah.
for a semi-automatic weapon. A fully automatic means when you depress the trigger, it continues sending rounds out of the barrel until you let off of the trigger. Now, keep in mind, the bolt has to make a complete cycle, chamber another round, and then expend that round, which takes a little bit of time, right? You physically got some mechanics happening internally in the gun. So it's not like when you depress the trigger on a fully automatic weapon that it just literally starts dumping ammunition out of the end of it. It does not do that. The entire gun still has to make a full cycle.
Yeah.
It still has to do its entire process.
Yeah. Whatever that.
One round at a time.
Yeah.
And so in theory, we can pretty much prove this. If you're really good at guns, you can shoot a semi-automatic just as fast as a fully automatic.
Yeah.
Because if you can pull the trigger as fast as the bolt can cycle, it will.
You're within that same range.
You're within that same range because it still has to do the full process.
For sure.
So just to keep it dumb, and these are not accurate numbers at all. These are wildly inaccurate numbers, but just for dumb math. Say it takes 3 seconds for the entire cycle to happen.
Yeah.
If you can pull the trigger every 3 seconds, whether you're semi-automatic or fully automatic, you're still only sending a round downrange every 3 seconds.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So here's how the bump stock works. The bump stock, it's kind of weird, but it's like a sliding stock, and the stock is what you would shoulder on a rifle. But then it also
we have this on mine, right?
No. But it also part of the stock then comes down to the back of the grip of the rifle.
Oh, yeah.
So when you depress the trigger, the rifle recoils. Your hand stays on the grip, but the rifle recoils inside of the stock with your hand on the grip, which essentially moves the trigger in your finger.
Oh.
So you don't have to pull the trigger. You pull the trigger to where it goes.
Recoil of the gun's
exactly.
motion.
And then as the rifle recoils, it manipulates the trigger as it moves in your hand.
It's like a shake weight.
It's kind of like a shake weight. You're actually not that far off. It's kind of like a fucking shake weight. A shake weight that goes bang. Wow. Shout out shake weight.
Yeah. If you guys are still around, we'll take some samples. We'll get them on air.
Oh my God, I've never heard that. That's hilarious.
We'd love to donate them to the community.
But anyway, so does it allow the layman who's not firearms trained to be able to pull the trigger faster than would be able to be? Absolutely.
Interesting.
Here's the thing. We had fully automatic rifles in the military. We had 3-round burst rifles in the military. Rarely did I ever use fully automatic or 3-round burst.
Is that because you were such a specialist though? Like
no, it's because it's a waste.
Isn't like one bullet to you is like $1 million?
Well, no.
No, but like don't you have like a ratio that you're like, look, I make one shot, one
shot, one kill.
One goal. Yeah.
One shot, one kill. That's the idea.
Yeah, you're not spraying fucking.
There are times when that is good.
Yeah.
If you're trying to lay down suppressive fire, you're not really necessarily trying to shoot someone. It's more of an area target.
You guys know we're here and like
you're trying to keep heads down.
Yeah.
So you're just trying to keep a lot of rounds in a certain area so that you have an opportunity to move people around. 99% of the population doesn't need to worry about this.
I was gonna say, you're not gonna hear this on a lot of podcasts.
Right, yeah, none of this is necessary at all.
So we need
Also-
5 tools, it sounds like.
Well, here-
We need a 5th
hang
for
on.
cover and suppressive fire. I
No,
understand.
you do not need that.
All right, the list is still only 4.
So also, like it was early '80s, you could still legally buy fully automatic weapons.
What? Like an M16? Would an M16?
The early ones that were fully automatic, absolutely.
That'd be kind of epic.
Tommy guns, you could legally buy those.
You're right, yeah.
Um,
But the Tommy guns, were they just wildly inaccurate?
Yeah,
Or, like,
well, and that,
uh,
so getting back to the point of why we rarely ever use 3-round burst or fully auto. Some of our M4s had 3-round burst, some of them were, our earlier ones were fully auto. I like 3-round burst a little better. I never liked the fully auto. If you dump 30 rounds and you don't hit anything, or you dump 1 round and hit something, which is better?
Yeah, 1000%. Also, like if you're in a position outside the wire, you've given away your.
Let's not talk about combat. Let's talk about day-to-day normal civilians.
I want to talk about combat.
You want to talk about?
No, but I mean, like, I'm just thinking about like the application in this case.
Sure.
Like, why would I shoot 30 rounds? Now everybody knows where the fuck I am. I'm gonna shoot 1.
Well, then you got to carry 30 rounds. Then you got to buy 30 rounds.
Yeah.
It's done.
All right, well, let's go back to civilians,
Yeah.
because you're right, that's my.
I
So
mean,
we've covered misinformation.
I want to talk a little bit more about misinformation. So the AR platform.
just said we already covered it.
I want to talk more.
We're gonna reopen the
The
topic.
AR platform it's a great sporting platform. Someone that wants to get into guns, I think they're great.
Yeah,
They
it
do
seems
make-
like a pretty
They're
yeah,
easy.
yeah. Seems like
they were
relatively
desi-
safe because they're so easy.
They
too.
were designed to be easy.
Yeah,
They work, they're accurate, they're affordable to shoot, they're fun.
yeah,
A good rifle for someone that has never shot before
yep.
to learn how to shoot.
Very approachable.
Totally. And the media has made them out to be this like evil weapon of war, and they're absolutely not.
Right. See the notes on semi-automatic versus automatic. The bug stuff.
And they're not fully automatic at all.
No, but like these are the buzzwords: the
Right.
bump stock, fully auto,
Honestly, in
and
my-
assault rifle are like the 3 things that like they lead with
I've
when
shot-
they're trying to dissuade.
So I have a couple friends that have bump stocks. I've shot bump stocks before. I think they're the dumbest fucking thing in the planet. Like I would
Yeah.
never buy
Like
one.
why on
They're
earth?
absolutely useless.
I just don't understand.
It literally is just for the guy that wants to just go bang, 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 bang as fast as he can and not hit anything.
Yeah, right.
I think there's zero place for them.
Hmm.
I mean, I've gone to the gun range before, and I don't think the bumps. I don't know that I've seen a bump stock at the gun range. I've always just seen them on like private property. But you see guys at the gun range and they pull their gun out and they load it and they start shooting, and they never even went and put up a target. And it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Why are you here? Why are you just shooting your gun for the sake of shooting your gun?
Into the ether.
And again, that's poor firearms ownership. And
Yeah,
that is someone that has zero training, zero education, and they just want to go bang. And those guys are fucking idiots.
yeah.
And don't be that guy.
Hmm.
Because also too, I think if you're actually trying to be safe, one of the most important things about being safe is identifying a target, knowing
Yeah,
knowing what's beyond your target,
yeah.
and then safely engaging your target.
Hmm.
If you don't even have a target, how are you identifying a target? And if you don't know where you're shooting, how do you know what's behind what you're shooting? So right off the bat, you've not done a couple of the fundamentals that need to happen just to
Like the
start.
requisites for like
Exactly.
being a responsible gun owner.
I mean, like,
You're an idiot because you're not getting any better. You've also economically
you're
cost
literally just
yourself.
lighting money
You
on
just-
fire.
Right.
You're lighting money on fire, and
That's
everyone around.
exactly it though.
And you're also raising the I'm an idiot flag.
Right.
Because everyone around you knows you're an idiot because you're not shooting at anything. Couple things just to touch on safety.
So we
because
don't support that.
we don't support that.
No.
So a couple things. Finger off the
By
trigger.
the way, can I give a little pro tip that you taught me?
Hmm.
You don't have to go buy targets.
Hmm.
You can just take paper plates,
Paper plates and draw
like
whatever you want.
Sharpie.
Yeah.
And Casey has this in his bag. I had all these like stupid targets that were like, we're gonna go staple these down at the
Sure.
end.
$10
Like-
worth of targets.
$10 worth of targets, and Casey's like, pulls out like
95
30 cents of paper plates and a
Yeah,
Sharpie,
for
like, here's your target.
here's your target.
So just consider that. If
For
you're
a dollar, you can go to the store and buy 100 paper plates and a magic marker, and you've
If you're
got
on a
targets
budget, this is a
forever.
pro tip. I loved it. I loved it.
Don't spend money on
I
targets.
felt so silly.
Unless you're a Target manufacturer that wants to sponsor this podcast, then yes, buy targets. But
Shout out Target sponsors.
yes, or if you're a paper plate manufacturer,
The Bulgarian's trying to get in on this podcast.
yeah,
right
tell
now.
them to come by.
He's calling.
Just message him.
Yeah, we can't talk to him right now. We're live on the air,
We're
bro.
live on the air, bro. So
Amazing.
weapon safety, real quick.
All right, I like that.
Number one, every gun is loaded, period. Every single gun is loaded. Even if it's not loaded, it's fucking loaded. You treat every single firearm like it is loaded until you confirm that it is not. And then even once you have confirmed that it's not, you still treat it like it is.
Yeah.
Meaning you don't point it at people unless you intend to kill that person, or just they're loaded.
Yeah.
And the first thing that you do, no matter who tells you what, is confirm the status of that weapon
It's not
system.
loaded.
So, confirm that it's not loaded or confirm that it is loaded. I carry loaded.
Sure.
So when I leave, I want to make sure that it's loaded.
Confirm the status. That's
Right.
better stated.
Yeah.
You're right.
Confirm the status of the weapon system.
Makes
So,
sense.
but if you want it unloaded, confirm that it's unloaded. If someone who's highly trained with firearms hands you a gun and says, "Don't worry, it's unloaded,"
Still check.
you
Check the
100%
chamber.
check
Still pull
to
the-
make sure. And how you confirm a weapon's status is if it's a magazine fed, if it's a shotgun and it's still a magazine, but it's a tube, if it's a revolver, if it's a rifle, whatever. However it holds the rounds in the rifle or in the weapon system, you need to release that. Get rid of the rounds, and then you open the chamber. So say it's a Glock. Eject the magazine, rack the slide, and confirm the chamber. You confirm visually, but you also need to confirm physically. And when I say physically, I mean stick your fucking finger in there, stick your booger hook in there, and make sure that there's nothing in the barrel or in the chamber.
Mhm.
Because you think you might have not seen anything, but until you know, you know. And then still think that there's like a 10% chance that there might be something in there and treat it as such.
Mhm.
Anyway, finger off the trigger.
Yeah, I love that. I've seen you at the range, and I
Mhm.
love that you preach this. Like you teach people how to, operate around
Safety, 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 safety,
Yeah.
safety.
Yeah.
Here's the thing is about guns, you cannot take it back.
Yeah.
You cannot take it back.
Right.
There's no like,
Yeah.
oh shit, it's about to go off, so I better stop it. It's either going off or it's not. And that's the
Or even
second.
the aftermath of like, you can't take that back.
You can't take anything back.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
everything happens instantly and everything is permanent.
Yeah. Well stated. Might be the quote of the cast.
So obviously, number one, check the condition of the weapon system, the status. Number two, finger off the trigger all the time. 100% of the time, your finger is off the trigger. Because here's the thing. If you don't pull the trigger, the gun's not going to go off, period.
Mm-hmm.
Guns don't just accidentally go off.
Right.
Sure, there might be a couple occasions of something going off, but that was a weapons malfunction. If your firearm is in proper working condition, if you don't pull the trigger, it's not going to go bang.
Yeah.
The only time you put, even if I say, for instance, I'm in a real man gunfight situation. If I pull my gun and I present it and I'm pointing it at a would-be attacker, I've got my sights lined up on that person before I put my finger on the trigger. Now it happens instantaneously. It happens so fast that you can't even, it's almost hard, but you have to train that. So that my finger does not touch the trigger until I know for a fact that I'm about to poke a hole in something.
I think there's a lot of like underlying context of like training here.
100%
That like you
training.
need to be familiar,
Mhm.
exposed. It's kind of like we've talked about this a lot with just like being a guy and like
Mhm.
being able to handle yourself.
Mhm.
You don't necessarily need to be a fighter, but you need to be able to like protect yourself in situations or like when the like temperature gets turned up
Mhm.
and like you would hope that you've had enough like experience or exposure that things like slow down.
Mhm.
You've had that kind of training.
Well,
Like not a lot of people have, where so like
but everyone can.
right.
Everyone can. And that's why you don't go out, buy a gun, and then look to go get in a gunfight day one.
No, man. But I think there's
You
like,
want to know the best way to win a gunfight? Don't get in a gunfight.
I heard. Well, that's what I'm saying is like people who like have never been in a fight,
Uh-huh.
just even a fist fight.
Sure.
When shit gets turned up, it goes sideways for them usually
They get
because
rattled.
they
Sure.
get rattled, right? And you know, we've been in situations like this where like you're clearly more calm in a lot of these situations than most anybody would be because you are like supremely confident in self, but have also been properly trained.
There's training there for
There's
sure.
training that instills confidence in self. And so you know how to carry yourself or hold yourself in these
Also, too,
situations.
I've made mistakes, and you learn from those.
Yeah.
So, like,
Totally.
you fuck up, and
But I was talking with a friend today about like, you know, just what it would be like to be like a father of a family, right? Like neither one of us have kids right now.
Mhm.
But what it would be like to be father of a family, like you'd want to be able to protect them if somebody were to
Sure.
run up on you or like say something stupid or be a
Mhm.
drunk idiot or whatever, like you know how to handle that situation, if not that person, and
Mhm.
more importantly, yourself,
Mhm.
to be able to physically, you know, guns an extension of that training.
Let me
and
put a pin in
behavior.
that real quick. I want to
Yeah.
talk about one more safety thing, and then I
All right.
want to jump right back to that.
All right.
The third part of firearm safety is muzzle awareness. So the business end of your gun, muzzle awareness. Don't point it at anything you're not prepared to put a hole in
Yeah.
to kill or destroy. So whether it be a target, a person, a cat, a dog, your refrigerator, the TV because the Bears lost,
Yeah.
if you're not prepared to put a hole in it and then to deal with the consequences of having put a hole in it,
Yeah.
don't point your gun at it, period.
Yeah.
And that goes at the range when you're loading, unloading,
Hotels.
when you're getting in and out of your car and you're moving your guns from your safe in your house to your
Yeah.
car to
Right.
the range. Be aware.
Remember the guy that lost his
Oh my
gun at the range?
Well, let's
Sorry,
go back to
finish that.
Yeah,
I'll
right.
finish this.
So those are the safety things. Now, Jeff was just talking about family, you know, how do you defend your family with a firearm? I'll tell you exactly how I would defend my family with a firearm. You want to gain space, distance, create more time for yourself because no one makes good decisions off the cuff.
Mhm.
So what you do is trust your instincts, be like, this doesn't feel comfortable, this doesn't feel right, and then immediately start removing yourself from the situation. You're walking down the street without a gun.
Yeah.
And you want to get in a fight. Fine, it's a fight. If you have a gun on you, that fight has 1,000 times over escalated.
Mhm.
Because now you're not just a fight, now you have a gun.
Yeah.
So
We're not ending this with a rear naked chokehold. No.
well, or a punch because here's the thing. Either you're gonna use your firearm or they're gonna use your firearm against you. It rarely goes well.
Yeah.
It rarely goes well.
Yeah.
When you introduce a gun into the situation, you have to be even a million times more cautious.
Yeah.
You really, the only way to win that is to get away.
Yeah, run.
Get away.
Well, just leave. Yeah.
Just leave.
the situation.
It is the absolute last ditch effort because here's the thing, you use your firearm, cops are getting involved,
Yeah.
you're going to jail.
Fuck yeah.
Even if you are right,
Right.
you're probably gonna get handcuffed, you're probably gonna get a ride in the cruiser, you're probably gonna go downtown.
Yeah.
And maybe you will end up being justified at the end of it. But
it's also such a binary like outcome
just
and like
remove yourself from the situation.
yeah.
And I carry all the time. Not all the time. If I'm drinking, I don't carry. But to and from work, when we go
Let's
into
talk about that a little bit because I'm interested. You travel a lot.
Yep.
So I've always been like, you know, living in Colorado, I know what the gun laws are here. And talk a little bit about like the open versus
Sure.
conceal carry, and then what that's or vehicle carry even, and what that's like crossing state lines. And I'll just add one more layer to this. We've already talked about it, but I'll tee it up for the audience. which is that we grew up like in high school,
Right.
schools where like the trucks were unlocked with racks on the back,
Totally.
inside, and like
Yeah.
12 gauge and a shotty,
Dove hunting before school, shotguns
Yeah.
in the truck,
So we got 2 guns in the back window,
4 or 5 doves in the back of your truck.
full visibility.
Yeah.
Didn't lock the truck either.
Maybe a
because, like,
rabbit.
country, you don't have to. Yeah. So state lines,
all right.
conceal, open.
Well,
like,
first of all,
carry.
disclaimer, I am not a legal expert. And I'll be the first one to admit that there are probably times when I have been in other states where I was unknowingly.
As your lawyer and co-host asked. Stop talking.
It was outside of this country. Anyway.
And he was in the military, so it was totally fine.
Totally fine. So the state of Colorado is an open carry state.
Yeah.
Which means that you need 0 license, 0 anything to open carry. When I say open carry,
Outside of the belt loop or belt
has to be clearly visible.
Not even under a jacket.
Not even under a jacket. It has to be clearly visible by everyone. And it's very gray area because say it's in a holster and your shirt's covering the top of the gun and the
Unintentionally,
unintentionally.
Yeah.
But part of the holster is exposed.
Yeah.
Is that open carry or is that concealed carry? So there's some gray area.
Okay.
Concealed carry means you can carry it anywhere on your person that you want.
Yeah.
Now,
But that requires a special license.
you'd have to get a permit.
Go through courses, get a permit.
It's a class.
They can do them online now.
You can do them online.
Yeah.
Well, some states you can, some states you can't.
In Colorado, you can't.
Colorado, just recently you can.
Yeah.
Here's the thing though, even though you do the class, that doesn't mean that you can. You have to go to your sheriff's department and you have to get your sheriff from your county to sign off on it.
Okay.
So yes, you can go do it online and you can get the piece of paper to take to the sheriff's department to have your sheriff sign off on it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't guarantee that he will.
Oh.
He could very much say no, even though yes, the state says this in our county, we like people to have a in-person course with some firearms.
Okay.
It used to be you had to physically go shoot a gun.
Yeah.
You had to be able to display that you knew how to load, unload.
This goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? Like proper,
and like what I was saying earlier, you used to learn firearm safety in the Boy Scouts. You used to learn firearm safety in school.
Yeah.
It was just a thing that was taught. Hunter safety. You used to get your hunter safety in school if you wanted to. And I think that they should bring that back. I think that it should just be a thing. Like you take driver's ed, you should also have to take hunter safety.
I don't even think driver's ed's a thing.
It might not be.
Based on the drive.
Basically, yeah, seriously.
Around. Where did you get certified?
But I mean, so and there are, I think it's 20. I want to say it's like damn near half the country. There's like 25 states now that recognize constitutional carry, which means that you can concealed carry in those states regardless of any sort of special certifications or sign off from your sheriff.
Is Colorado one of those?
Colorado is not a constitutional carry. Colorado is an open carry. But like Kansas, Nebraska? Nebraska's constitutional carry. A lot. I think it's like 25 states. You'll have to look it up, but there's a lot of states.
I'm Zillowing places in Nebraska right now. They have the fastest internet in the world in Omaha.
So, and let's talk about concealed carry versus open carry. So there's 2 schools of thought. For me personally, I would never open carry unless I was in uniform.
I wouldn't want people to know that I was carrying mostly.
So that's one of the arguments. One of the arguments is number 1, if you're open carrying, you draw attention to yourself.
Totally.
Number 2, if you are in some sort of situation where there is a shooting getting ready to take place, some people say you'll be the first target. The argument is that actually, no, they want to take out soft targets first, so you would be the last target, giving yourself more time to potentially save some lives. That is another huge, giant misconception. If you're carrying, you're not law enforcement. You're not the fucking police. You're not Johnny Save Everybody. You're not Superman.
No.
That firearm that you are carrying is to protect you and your family. It's not to protect the guy in the store. It's not to protect the shop owner. It's not to protect the guy across the street. Now, if you want to do that, that is on you, but the law does not cover you there. Your firearm is to protect you and your family, period. You can't go out and do vigilante shit.
Yeah.
You go get your concealed carry license. That doesn't all of a sudden make you a undercover plainclothes cop.
Right.
Just because you were picked on in fucking high school
Totally.
doesn't mean you can go get your concealed carry and go save all the world's problems.
Right.
And that's a giant misconception.
Love that mention.
You're not a law enforcement officer. You are not a federal agent. You are not a spy. You are not anything that you think that you are.
Even heroic.
You're not even heroic.
Yeah.
You are literally.
I mean, I live in the mountains, so I think about this in like an urban context versus a rural
I will tell you
context.
that 90% of the reason I carry is for animals.
Yeah, that's what I was just. Yeah, that's where I was
90%
going.
of the
That's where I
reason.
was going.
Yeah.
And it's like that's a real thing where we live. Like we
Mhm.
live in the high country.
Totally.
There are like
I'm out fishing.
there are
I see
animals
mountain
everywhere.
lions.
Well, we're
Yeah.
outside all the time.
Totally.
Yeah, you are in the elements. And so
Even
in
just
that-
driving back and forth to work, there's been a couple times I've hit an elk. The guy
Yeah.
ahead of me hit a deer, and they were suffering on the side of the road.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And so I carry to do that.
Humane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, granted, there's tends to be some explaining when the, deputy rolls
When
up
you've
and-
already
yeah.
quartered the deer when he shows up, and you're
I
like,
swear
I'm
I
not doing.
I swear, I hit him. No, you shot him, then you drove over him. No, that's not what happened. Get out of here.
That's good.
No, but so that's the giant misconception about people that carry. I carry 99.9% of the time for animals.
So what's the rule? I know this is state by state, but like
Mhm.
if you have no permit for
Oh, let's get back to
conceal-
that. Okay.
Yeah,
So your car
I'm in my car.
is
Yeah.
your house.
Okay.
So if you can legally own a firearm in your home, you can legally have a
Like
firearm
you're not
in
a
your car.
felon, you don't
Right.
yeah.
If you can legally own a firearm in your home,
Yeah.
your car is an extension of your
But we're
house.
gonna have it in my car, like under my seat, in the glove box.
In the
like,
state
does
of
it have to be
Colorado-
Sitting. on
Nope, in the
top
state of
it?
Colorado can be wherever the fuck you want in your car in any status.
Okay. Loaded or,
Okay, so that's
well,
loaded.
yeah, vocabulary.
Okay,
Let's go
so loaded rounds in the magazine inserted in the weapon.
there. Yeah,
Chambered,
no,
no, chambered, magazine in the weapon with rounds in the magazine, round in the
in
chamber.
yeah.
Um,
The ladder's not allowed.
No,
right? You can have
no.
magazine in, you can have chamber.
in my opinion, there's absolutely no reason to have bullets in your gun if there's not a bullet in the chamber.
Totally, I mean,
It
that-
makes no sense.
why, what are we doing here?
Right, don't pull the trigger.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I get some people like to carry without a round in the chamber. I get that. People especially that don't have a lot of training, people that haven't spent time or made a living with a firearm, I get that. Some people feel more comfortable without having a round in the chamber.
Control, I guess.
Honestly, my wife has a lot of training and I think that she feels more comfortable not carrying with a round in the chamber. Being said,
I think I would too.
it's not uncommon. And there's two schools of thought. I don't know. My guns at the house, half and half. Most of my guns actually are probably loaded, not chambered. But I know. And also I train both ways. So I'll train coming out of the holster, whether it's a concealed holster or an open holster, like if you're going to be in uniform. In uniform, if you're open carry, you're chambered 100% of the time.
Well, you're like
Because you're
on the
you're
front
working.
lines,
You're working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're working.
Non-uniform, I get either way. I mean, I personally carry chambered 99.9% of the time. But people that don't, you need to train that way. And then you also need to understand the downside of that.
I think that's why I would go unchambered, because the likelihood of me needing to like deploy a round.
If you need to pull your gun, you're gonna need to pull your gun immediately and have it fully functional.
Sure, so that's that's the case for it.
If
But I
you
think-
have enough time,
I just think there's so much room for error, like in the universe, that I would just rather I just think about like an accidental round going off. Like,
so all right, I'm
even
glad,
that's a 2% chance. Like you said, you can't take it back.
I'm
right?
so glad that you said
You
that.
can't remove that.
There are
You can't
zero,
do that.
there are zero accidents with a firearm.
Yeah.
When you use the word
But if you're
accident,
chambered and you're like off safety
Mhm.
and something happens, I mean, Plaxico Burress, I mentioned it earlier, the guy shot himself in the foot or the leg or the shin.
I guarantee you, I would literally bet my life that every firearm that I own, I can have chambered off of safe
Yeah.
and throw on the ground and they're not gonna.
No, I don't mean like that. I'm just saying, like, I don't know, something like
He touched
something
the trigger.
just grabs. No, but I'm saying like something grabs a trigger.
So a
Yeah.
couple things. One, he was negligent in the way that he was carrying.
Of course, he was in sweatpants.
Well,
at a strip club
I know a lot of guys
on
that
a like
carry.
a night.
So likely he was drinking, and
No,
if
my
you're
point is
drinking, you
like
should
he's
not carry.
ridiculous.
Right.
Like, of course, like this is not the model that I'm talking about
So, but
for gun safety.
if you're carrying in a safe manner, that means that you have a holster that
Yeah.
covers the trigger.
Right. Yeah.
If you're carrying in a way that you have the
They're
trigger
just
is
still
exposed,
I still
Hang
feel
on.
like
if the trigger is exposed in however way that you're carrying,
yeah.
you are negligent. And so that's not an accident. That is negligence.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? If your firearm, if you have a gun that you can drop and it will go off, your equipment hasn't been maintained,
Yeah,
and so you are negligent.
I hear you.
Here's the thing: when in the gun world, there's no gray area.
Yeah,
There's no accident because you can't stand in front of 12 people and say it was an accident.
you didn't have the right gear.
Right,
didn't
you were
have the right-
negligent.
You didn't holster it.
There's no gray area. There are no excuses when it comes to firearms. You are 100% responsible.
Well, it's
and
also-
everything that happens with it. If someone else shoots someone with your firearm, you're responsible.
That was one of my notes too. I was wondering about that too.
You are 100% responsible. So if your gun gets stolen out of your car
Yeah. And
That-
used in a crime.
and used in a crime, it's going to come back to you. Now, whether you do time for it or not,
Yeah.
that's
You
unlikely.
still have to go through some.
But you're still going to have to do some shit, and it was your job for not securing your firearm.
But I think that's education as well. Like, here's the
100%.
proper holster. Here's the fucking way to wear your gun. Here's what this.
And
yeah.
it needs to be secured. And there's only two ways to secure a firearm. One, it needs to be on your person, or two, it needs to be behind a lock.
Yeah.
And in the rules of law, those are the only two ways you can have a secured firearm. If your firearm is unsecured and something happens with it, you are negligent.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But these are all things that you need to think that the person
Yeah.
needs to think about before they decide if they want to go buy a gun or not.
Absolutely.
They're gonna say, "Oh, I just watched Rambo 15, and I watched John Wick, whatever 8, whatever John Wick they're on,
Well, there's all.
and I like that gun, so I want to go get a Terran Tactical modified Glock.
Yeah.
Awesome gun, Terran
Well,
Tactical. badass
I was at a
motherfucker.
gun show once, and I texted you like something that looked like it was like some short barrel,
Sure.
like I don't know what it was, and you were like, "Yeah, that's neat, and that might be fun to fire like a few rounds through, but like that is a toy.
Mhm.
We're dealing with weapons,
They're
most,
tools.
and I think most are tools, yeah, and I think most people should think about guns as tools.
Mhm.
You know, like you're hunting, it's a means to an end,
Sure.
sustainability for your family.
Mhm.
You live in an urban area where like you need to protect because it's rough, like
Or
need
you
to
live
be able
in
to-
a rural area where you need to protect
rural-
yourself.
That's what I was getting to
Yeah.
next. Yeah, I think that's like really interesting. Yeah,
Guns are tools, period.
guns are tools, and you know the thing about tools, it's like knowledge. When it's
Mhm.
applied appropriately,
Sure.
amazing things happen.
Right, you want to know
When
how
it's
to use the
applied-
tool, and you want to have the right tool for the job. You maintain your tools,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
you're safe and responsible with your tools.
And if you're ignorant to the responsibility that comes along with
Mhm.
the managing of these tools,
Sure, then
that's the same thing as
not
like
like
a
in a bike.
tractor or a fucking
a
like
lawnmower,
a sheath or yeah,
Yeah.
like totally, man. Not a sheath. What are those things called where they
sigh,
sigh? Yeah, nice.
or a sickle.
Yeah,
Either
you were
one.
on it though. Nice, dude. That's good, dude. I like that. Well, what else do you want to talk about? We've not mentioned, the episode is, currently titled Guns, and Arms. I put arms in there. Should we talk about like
Flamethrowers?
swords? Yeah. Nunchucks?
Nunchucks. I mean, here's my thing on nunchuck. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a big fan.
Michelangelo, Ninja Turtles, shout out, buddy.
Nice. Can you name the other 3 turtles and their weapons?
Leonardo swords, Donatello staff, Raphael side,
Fucking he can.
and Splinter kung fu
And mental mind games.
and mental mind
And
games.
mental mastery.
And he's a fucking rat, so he'll shoot
Mental-
your shit off.
Can also gnaw your knees off.
No, now I mean, well, if you're gonna talk about arms, let's talk about this. If you decide you want to go out and buy a gun,
Yeah.
right? I would say go get a Glock 19, 9mm
Yeah.
Glock. I would say go get some AR platform. Smith and Wesson makes a really good, really affordable AR platform. 308, I'd say go get a bolt action Remington 700. It's going to shoot a 308 7.62. You're going to be able to shoot that thing well out past 700, probably close to 1,000 yards if you're any good. When you're buying high powered rifles, you should spend more money on your optic than you do on your rifle. Shotgun.
That's a note right there.
Yeah, if you're buying a $800 rifle, it should probably be about a $1,500 optic. If you're buying a $3,000 rifle, it should probably be about a $6,000 optic.
Else you wasted the money on the gun, right?
Totally.
Kinda.
Yeah,
You don't have the control over it that you would if you had better sight.
I think so.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of dorks out there that just want the latest, greatest, coolest looking rifle,
sure.
and they shoot it twice, and then it lives in their closet, and they
Right,
just
right.
beat off and show everyone how cool their gun is. But if you actually want to use it, do the stuff.
Oh, that's good.
The second thing that you should go get though is a medical kit, a first aid kit. Because if you're gonna have a gun, shit happens with guns.
I've been to the range with him. He does have like tourniquets and
Yep.
patches and yep, all the things we need to do.
You should have it's called an IFAC, but it's an individual first aid kit. Tourniquet, pressure compression bandage, chest seal is a good thing. Another thing real quick
Liquid
is just
skin.
liquids. Yeah, that's not gonna do a whole lot. I mean, the big thing is a tourniquet, a chest seal, and an Israeli bandage or a pressure bandage.
What's an Israeli bandage?
It's essentially just think of like Ace Wrap with bandage on it, so you can do pressure. It's a pressure dressing. So a tourniquet actually will stop blood flow to a limb.
Yeah.
Where a pressure dressing will just slow down blood flow to a limb.
Okay.
If you're applying a tourniquet, you need to know how to apply a tourniquet. It needs to be 4 inches above or below a joint. And then you need to note what time you applied said tourniquet so that when they get to an actual hospital, they know how to release the tourniquet so you don't end up losing that limb, hopefully. Because you can apply a tourniquet wrong and you can cost someone a limb.
I feel like our audience is taking deep notes right now. Like, hold on, I need a notebook.
Yeah, and take
field med. Yeah.
take a basic first aid class.
Yeah. Good
Get
call.
training.
Good call.
Same thing with a
You
firearm.
do that anyway, though, as an
You
adult.
really should.
Like, you really should know how to fuck.
But if you go buy a firearm, you should, at the bare minimum, watch some YouTube videos and be careful because there's a lot of fucking hacks out there. But
do you have any you want to plug? Do you know anyone that we could point them to?
Tim Kennedy.
We're light on shout outs tonight.
So there's this guy, his name's Tim Kennedy. Tim Kennedy, former Special Forces guy. He owns or is partners in a company. It's called Sheepdog Tactical.
Shout out Sheepdog Tactical.
Sheepdog. They have a ton of YouTube stuff. He's great. If you can get out to him and get a class, he's amazing. He's been on Joe Rogan a bunch. There's a lot of good guys. I would say this: if you can find a class that is instructed by someone who is former military, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to be in the right neighborhood.
Totally.
No offense to law enforcement. We love law enforcement, but a lot of law enforcement guys aren't gun guys. They shoot once a year to qualify.
Like you said earlier, you have to go through basic like rifle training at any level of the military. So
you want someone that's been in some sort of operation, at the bare minimum infantry, and hopefully something a little more high speed than that. There are definitely some great law enforcement guys out there, but a lot of your law enforcement people, they qualify once a year. They're not gun people.
Yeah.
The only rounds that they've ever put through their gun are when they have to shoot at targets.
They're like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do something cool.
But a couple of takeaways from this podcast, because I want to wrap this up. Number 1, everyone should have a gun. Number 2, everyone.
That's what we've learned today.
Number 2, everyone that should own a gun needs training.
Yes. I think education's huge.
Educate
and experience. Just having like.
But find someone that knows what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
And buddy up to them, spend the money, take a class.
For sure.
You're better off to spend.
Are we selling your classes yet?
We're not doing classes.
Not yet, no. All right.
Second thing.
You gotta monetize this somehow. Dude.
There's a USCA, UCCA I can't remember, it's a 4-letter
You
acronym.
can't, that was like 8 letters.
I know.
What do you mean USCA, CSSS?
There's a company that does firearms insurance.
Oh,
So if you are gonna buy a firearm and you're gonna go take some classes, you're gonna get a concealed carry permit. UCCA, I think maybe, I can't remember. They sell firearms insurance so that if you do, God forbid, you ever have to be using this firearm,
you're telling us we need insurance?
because if, I'm just saying it's a good idea.
For your weapons or for your person?
It's for you. So if you're gonna be the guy
Does
that,
it cover the people around me?
well, no, it's,
The only other
it's so that if
business?
you get in an altercation and you end up having to shoot somebody,
Yeah,
they're gonna jump in and help you.
be my legal
Exactly.
representation.
Remember that kid? What was his name?
Is it SIA?
No.
Sportsman's.
It's
Insurance
U something,
Agency?
UCCA, USCA, UCSA. Who was the kid? Kyle?
USCCA.
USCCA.
I think that's it. Again, do your own research.
Who was the
folks.
kid that shot 2 people? During the riots, he had his AR and they were like gonna hang him out to dry. What was his name? Kyle something?
Yeah. Starts with an R, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the media,
Quiet, girl.
Rittenhouse.
Rittenhouse, yeah.
The media made it out to be like he was this like murderer out like looking for trouble.
And he wasn't.
And he
It was
wasn't. It was
self-defense.
completely self-defense.
And he was
completely
like,
cool.
had been trained on his weapon system to a degree,
I mean, in my opinion,
probably undertrained.
well, in my opinion,
Wasn't he like,
he was young.
yeah,
Here's the thing. There's a bunch of bullshit going on.
yeah.
There's no reason to get in the middle of it.
Mm,
You're not a cop.
mm,
You're not in the military.
right.
You're not law enforcement. You're not
gonna
fucking-
win that.
Well,
You're
you're not a spy. You're not 007. Stay home. Lock your fucking doors. Circle the wagons.
Keep that weapon if you need
There
it
is-
from home.
Don't get involved.
Yeah.
If you see,
Interesting.
I mean, I'm the first one to say that, but then I'm also the first one to probably break that rule.
Well, it depends on the circumstances.
I'm a little different than a lot of other people.
We're gonna get involved. I saw your post.
Mm.
It was like, where do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself?
Let's talk
in
about
6
some-
months? Mel Gibson behind the tree. I mean, we may not be far from that,
No,
unfortunately.
could be happening.
And I will be 1000% that same person. I've been studying berries and mushrooms, so I know how to forage.
Got you.
Well,
Well,
look, it's not always deer season.
I will, anyway, so you know the NRA,
The National
Rifle
Rifle
Association.
Association.
They did nothing to help Kyle Rittenhouse.
Should they have?
Yes.
Why do you think so?
Well, because I mean, he was kind of this, at that moment in time,
A martyr
Right.
for the gun.
they could have backed up
Yeah.
behind him and been like, hey, this guy was, and they did nothing. They could not have gotten more distance from him.
Mm,
Where this company, USCCA,
mhm.
took care of all of his medical expenses and supplied him with
Should we
lawyers.
take out a policy? Shout out USCCA if you have any
Um,
group or family plans. We're like, sounds like we might be in the market.
Well, I don't plan on shooting anyone.
What?
I don't plan on getting caught for having shot anyone.
Nice restatement.
I'm not saying people aren't gonna get shot. I'm just
We're-
saying
we're-
it's not coming back to me.
People are getting shot. It's happening. I mean, if there's no election or if Biden gets reelected, people are getting like,
No, come on.
it's probably gonna go.
That's just the beer talking.
What? No
Um,
one's had any beer. No one's getting shot. We just talked for the last hour
About
about
safety.
responsible
Right.
gun ownership
Yes.
and safety. So shout out to USCCA, I guess if you're
If you're a
interested in
firearms owner,
protecting yourself, yeah. The membership seemed to be reasonable and, it's better to have it, not need it than need it, not have it, I think.
totally.
But you suit your own situation.
I want to talk real quick before we wrap this up about gun control.
Let's go.
If anyone listening to this thinks that by making it harder for law-abiding citizens to own firearms, you really need to do some research. It's going to be really hard to have these kinds of conversations with you, because if you look at cities that have serious gun violence problems, those also are the cities that have the biggest gun restrictions.
Ha ha. Say Chicago.
Chicago,
Yeah.
New York,
Right.
LA. These are cities that have some of the highest gun restrictions in the country,
Mister.
and they also have the biggest gun violence problems.
Hmm.
And poverty in Chicago isn't any different than poverty anywhere else in the country. It isn't any different than poverty.
That disparate.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, look at, I don't know, name a shitty place in Arkansas that has crime. Name a shitty place in Kentucky or Tennessee or
Mhm.
wherever. Any of these states that have more lax gun laws, they have the same poverty as some of these other, like,
I mean, Arkansas is a great mention, actually. Do you remember We're of Age, where there was like gangs in Little Rock? Do you remember that
Yeah.
HBO special?
Mhm.
They like highlighted Little Rock, put Arkansas on the map, kind of.
Mhm.
It was just right around when like Bill Clinton was the governor of
Mhm.
Arkansas. And it was crazy because like there was like this dichotomous view of guns in Arkansas because there was a bunch of like rednecks, and I say that affectionately,
Yeah.
and hunters and people like are great
There's a
marksmen.
gun culture in
There's a
Arkansas.
gun culture. But then there was like this subculture of like gangs and like
Sure.
the sideways fucking
Sure.
Glocks pointing at people. And it was like such a weird thing that they were trying to like ban guns in Arkansas. And you're like, that's never.
You can look at it
gonna
nationwide, anywhere that you have banned guns or essentially made it harder for legal ownership of firearms for law-abiding citizens, they have more crime problems.
Yeah.
And it's because here's the thing. Murder has been illegal since 1776. Murder is illegal.
70s.
It's
I think it's always been frowned upon. But
yeah, it's illegal. And they don't specify murder with a gun, murder with a knife, murder with a car. You can get charged for murder in a car. You can get charged for murder a lot of different ways that don't involve a firearm. But at the end of the day, murder is murder and it's fucking illegal. So to say that this specific firearm is illegal or this capacity magazine is illegal, it's so stupid.
Yeah.
Because
you're skirting around the issue kind of, right?
You're making a law about a law that's already a law. Like,
and also like founded in the US, like,
and also people
Christian nations.
don't commit crimes by themselves.
This goes against like major sin.
Like, people aren't going to come rob your house by themselves, most likely. If your house is getting broke into and robbed, there's going to be a few people, right? Wouldn't you assume? I mean, maybe you got like some crackhead or some homeless drunk guy or whatever,
Right.
who's looking for like a warm place to
Yeah, but you probably got someone who's staking out the place, someone who's a lookout.
So if you're getting carjacked by a couple people.
Yeah.
And, you limit me to 10 rounds and I'm nervous. It's dark.
Yeah.
Oh, also, there is absolutely no reason to own a firearm that does not have a flashlight attached to it.
Ooh, good.
Every firearm that you own
Good
needs to have a fucking flashlight on it
Nice.
because crime happens at night. And if you need to use that weapon in a defense posture, it's probably going to be at night. And unless you want to have night vision and some sort of infrared laser aiming device, put a fucking flashlight on all your shit.
There you go.
Anyway, so you're typically going to have multiple people attempting to commit a crime on.
Yeah.
If you're going to get mugged, if you're going to get carjacked, if you're going to get anything, and you're,
true.
as much training as you do, and you'd like to be able to identify your target and identify what's beyond your target. In a hasty situation at night while you're moving and while potentially your target is moving, I don't care if you're John Wick, you're going to need more than one round, more often than not.
That's what I was talking about earlier. Like, I think it's important that people train in these situations. Even if it's just like a wooden gun in like a gym, like just practice being like surprised or being like in compromising situations.
Dry fire.
I have a really good buddy that was like a ex-army guy, got into like wrestled, I think at IU actually, so big time, and got into MMA for a little bit, like in the early stages of that. Point is, dude's tough, dude can fight, but got jumped on the way home in Denver and only survived it because he knew in that situation, like 4 dudes were on him 2 a.m. in the morning, it's dark, like
Did I tell you about my experience when I got rolled?
no. Maybe, but go ahead.
So me and my buddy, went out, we were meeting my buddy's wife for dinner.
Mm.
We'd had a couple drinks before at a different place, and we're walking to the restaurant to go meet his wife to go have dinner.
Where is this?
This is in Chicago,
Okay.
and not a bad neighborhood, a few blocks from Wrigley. We were in a bad neighborhood, pretty decent neighborhood in Chicago. And we're, I'd probably had 2 cocktails. So 2 Jack on the Rocks, 2 whiskeys. So, I mean, I wouldn't have driven at that point.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a
But
one drink
you're not
before I
loopy,
drive,
yeah.
but no, I'm still very functioning.
Yeah.
But also I'm not carrying because I knew I was gonna be drinking that night. I knew I was gonna have
Were you
some more
living
drinks
in
at dinner.
Colorado at this
I was
time?
living in Colorado. I was visiting
So
in,
you're back
yeah.
home.
So I had a gun in my truck, but my truck was at my buddy's house. And we took a cab into town. We knew we were gonna have some drinks, and I don't drink and drive, and I don't drink and carry. One drink. If I have more than one drink,
Lesson to the audience, listen to the pro.
yeah, it's not worth it.
The repercussions are way worse.
And I was with another guy. The restaurant we were going to was nice. I knew his wife was driving to that restaurant, and then I knew we were all leaving together from that restaurant to go home.
Sure.
No,
we get it.
And again, we were in a decent
We get it,
neighborhood.
yeah.
We were in a decent neighborhood.
Gotcha.
Stopped at a gas station. My buddy wanted a bottle of water. I needed a pack of cigarettes. Went in, got my cigarettes, walked outside, lit a cigarette, smoking there. Guy comes up, my buddy is still inside paying for his whatever he got, a bottle of water, I think, and maybe some gum. Guy walks up to me, hey man, can I get a light? Yeah, sure, man, no problem. Giving him a light.
Innocuous enough.
Handing him a lighter. And as he comes in to grab the lighter for me, which I'd offered to him, and I'm not thinking anything about it,
Of course.
he takes a swing at me and hits me.
Ooh.
Hits me right in the face.
Ooh.
And I stood back, and I was not ready for it at all. I immediately pushed him away from me to get space. He came at me again, and he did not hit me the second time. I ended up hitting him, and he fell down. Out of nowhere, I got punched in the side of my face.
Oof. From another
Blindsided
direction.
from someone else.
Yeah.
I did not go down, but I definitely stumbled. I kind of gained my whereabouts.
First one missed, second one caught,
No, well, first
Oh.
one caught from the lighter guy.
and then the other guy.
Second guy, I
So now-
dodged and re-engaged and knocked him down. Then out of nowhere, got hit a
Third.
second time. No, so same guy
Same.
first two.
Oh, okay.
Second guy
Yeah. All right.
blindsides me,
Damn.
side of the head.
Wild. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
stumble and turn around, and I shoved him, because again, I want to gain space.
Totally.
Don't be close. Get as much distance as you can possibly get. And I'm not a jiu-jitsu guy at all. I'm not a wrestler. I'm not a boxer. Played hockey and I can hockey fight, but I'm by no means a fighter. I'm
Yeah.
a gun guy. And so for me, space, because
Yeah.
I want to be able to get my gun. Well, I don't have a gun, and I knew I did, and I wasn't going for something that wasn't there, but I wanted distance. I wanted to get away.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave the scene. I'm not
Yep.
I'm not one of those guys that needs to dick measure and stand there and toe to toe fight.
And stand over them after.
Yeah, no, I just don't want to be.
I want to be part. I want to be part of this. Yeah, it's not on the plan.
So anyway, and also he's not. My family's not there. My friend isn't there at the time, so it's just me. I'm not defending anyone. So for me, at that moment in time, it's just get out of the situation.
Fuck yeah, totally.
So the second guy that hit me, I was able to push him, and he fell down. I pushed him hard enough back that he tripped over his feet, and he fell down.
Yeah.
And then lights out.
What do you mean lights out?
I mean, then 2 Chicago police officers were waking me up on the asphalt on the gas station floor.
What?
And I'm like, they woke me up, and I jumped up swinging. And they're like, it's okay. We're cops. And I immediately recognized they were cops.
Did you get jumped by another one?
Third guy.
Yeah.
And so they woke me up.
Holy smack.
They woke me up. And the first question was, where's my friend?
Oh, you did tell me this. I remember. Yeah, you were asking about your buddy.
And they were he was on a stretcher, and they were loading him into the back of an ambulance.
Wow.
They were loading him into the back of an ambulance.
Was there footage? You guys ever figure out what happened? Like how
There
you
was
got
there was
cold
no
caught?
security camera footage.
But like you guys weren't arrested or anything.
No,
You
no.
were just they were like
He
they
went to the
finally
hospital.
arrived and like brought
Right.
no, like your buddy went to the hospital, but the cops were there like
So the
breaking
cops,
it up.
no. The cop, I was unconscious on the ground.
So these guys had already ran off.
They were gone.
Oh,
The cops,
man.
the cops
Wild.
woke me up,
Wow.
and
And you're disoriented as all.
my first thing was, "Where's my friend?"
Yeah,
And they were loading him into an ambulance. So
Right.
from the time it
Oof.
took for an ambulance to get there was how long I'd been unconscious on the ground.
Wow.
According to my
And the
friend,
hoodlums had run off.
everyone's gone.
Oh.
So according to my friend who ended up going to the hospital, he came out of the gas station and
Saw you messing with these.
no, he saw me unconscious on the ground.
Oh.
And came over to help me and got
he
knocked out.
caught.
And he got knocked out.
Bro, these guys were savage.
And they were redoing the sidewalk around the gas station that we were at with
Yeah.
red brick, those
Oh.
small little red bricks, and there was a broken red brick next to me.
Yeah, just smashed.
So the third
Fucking head.
person that came in broke a brick over the back of my head,
Yeah,
knocked me out. My friend came out of the gas station to check on me,
probably got him with one.
and
too.
they got him with
out of
one,
the shadows.
and then they all left. He got stomped. He had a couple cracked ribs and half of his ear was torn off, so he had to get
Fuck.
stitches. They had to sew his ear back on his head. And then he had some
Bro.
bruised, cracked ribs that he had to deal with for a month or so. I just had a concussion from getting knocked out and a pretty big bump on the back of my head.
I know, but that's so unsettling to be like out unconscious.
Yeah, the
not have
police,
to
the
recall.
police said that they'd had a problem in that area where they were doing these gang initiations. And they were having these
You gotta go
guys,
like grab some.
you gotta go
dudes
jump
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and they said, "You're lucky you're not dead." But he's like, honestly, because you fought back is probably the reason that you're not dead. But they took my wallet, they took his wallet, which they got nothing. They got a driver's license and a couple cards that I canceled immediately because I carry my cash in my
I
pocket.
hate that kind of stuff, man.
But here's the thing.
I hate that kind of like
Now
coming of age,
let's-
adulthood, initiation.
Oh, I had already been on
What?
combat missions in Iraq. I was home, like I had training at this point.
No, I'm saying I'm going back to
my.
my buddy that I was talking about
Oh, yeah.
in Denver. Like the guy was like knew how to handle himself and was disciplined. Like he wasn't like a guy that would go out and like start business. You know what I mean? Wouldn't stir shit up. But yeah, man, he was like I was scared for my life, and I'm like that's insane. Like you're incredibly well trained. You were doing all the right things. You weren't talking mess to nobody, and then you just got like jumped by a bunch of like junkies, I
Thugs.
guess, or thugs.
Yeah,
or
these were guys joining a gang. I mean, I don't know what the third person looked like. The first two people, I would guess, late 20s.
I'm
Not kids, definitely men.
So you didn't ask me about my weapon of choice would be. My weapon of choice is a rear naked chokehold. Always.
Mhm.
I'm not a good puncher, but I will like absolutely. I'd rather be hand to hand combat with somebody. I hate this cowardice stuff where it's like multiple people jumping you,
Sure.
taking advantage of the situation. You know what I mean? Like in war scenarios, I think the sniping thing, like obviously, like there's, but like. I don't like this like urban kind of
I think
sprawl or like or
when
like
you're a kid and
sprawl
you're-
of violence.
When you're a kid and you're in high school and you're gonna get into fist fights, great. That's
Dude.
the way to do it. Handle it with your fists.
I mean, I know it's
Everybody
situational.
gets to
I'm
fight
just saying,
another
I
day.
just think it's like I just don't want to deal with somebody who's like
The thing is, in the world that we live in
I
today,
know it's not the thing.
it's not the thing.
It's not. Yeah.
And don't bring the rear naked choke to a gunfight
Totally.
because you're dead.
Well, that's neat. I can see you storming over
Right.
here, ready to do
Oh,
your
he's gonna
execution.
rear naked choke me.
Here comes your execution move.
And now I'm putting 3 in your chest.
Yeah. Ping.
So
I know.
good luck choking a
I
9mm.
know.
I just, and the fact
But I'm
is,
fast. I can go fast.
can you go faster
Close
than a bullet?
Kidding.
Anyway,
No,
let's
it's
wrap
good
this
work.
up.
We're about to wrap it up.
Um,
It is episode 7. It's been fucking amazing to hang out with you once again, my friend.
yeah, brother.
Thank you for your expertise, your knowledge. Like, thanks for carrying the episode. Honestly, we covered first time owners and like why you should buy, what you need, what you should get, some of the wives' tales and misinformation. So that was good. We talked about the legal issues. We talked about practicing in range time, and of course, weapons of choice. Like we talked a lot about guns, but I don't know, something cool to think about as nunchucks, you know,
Nunchucks.
for like close.
You know, I would also say a samurai sword. Like someone breaks into your
Katana.
house and you pull out a big ass samurai sword, they're like, this motherfucker's
I
crazy.
know, Leo had it right.
Leonardo.
Yeah.
No,
Do you know the colors?
Leonardo was purple, Donatello was purple, Leonardo was blue, Raphael was red, and Michelangelo was orange.
My guy, yes,
Yeah, brother.
nice. Love it.
Anyway,
Well, it's
get guns, get training, get first aid training.
As with everything we talk about here,
And don't
be
ever get
smart.
yeah.
Be smart.
And don't ever get in a gunfight. Get away from a gunfight.
Prepare yourself, protect yourself.
Mhm.
Education is a big key to that.
100%
Having the
educate
right
yourself.
tools. We've talked about this with winterizing for the win in
With
the
everything.
previous episode. Always be prepared. Get out in front of this stuff.
Mhm.
Educate yourself, and just also be awesome.
Yeah.
So
Love you guys.
Episode 7's come. I'm gonna take Pat McAfee's thing because I love it. Be a friend. Tell a friend something nice. You might save their life. Get at us if you have questions. Do you want to give your phone number again?
No. Bye.
Love y'all.
Bye.
See you next time.